Let's talk about the concept of the self-made entrepreneurs and self-made business people in general. This is one of the most pathetic and nakedly bogus tropes of the American right wing. They love applying it to Trump. They love applying it to Elon Musk. So I want to break it down and have a conversation about it. Now, you hear it about the big time entrepreneurs when it comes to the businesses that they created, but it often goes even further than that. And sort of overlaps into stories of alpha men and self-sufficiency and personal responsibility. And the reason that we care about this is that the trope is often used to justify no taxes, other wacky policies as well when it comes to cutting social safety nets. It's just like, if you want to just do it yourself, you're going to do it and you're going to be successful. But the reality that a lot of these MAGA people need to be confronted with is that no one is really self-made. And I don't just mean that two people had to come together so an egg and a sperm made you. Like, I'm not talking about that. You weren't really self-made. And I thought about this because over the holiday, I ran into someone from my hometown who said, wow, David, your podcast, the show, you really did it yourself. You just built it. Now, to be clear, I think it's important that we don't diminish ingenuity, creativity, hard work over sustained periods of time to build things. But as I think about myself, right, I didn't invent podcasting and online video. I didn't create the platforms that I use to broadcast: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TikTok, all of these things. These exist because of the tech ecosystem that's been shaped by public research, government investment, global infrastructure, mostly people who went to public school paid for by tax dollars, making all of this stuff. Even the equipment I use, the microphone, the camera, the computers, it's affordable thanks to trade agreements and globalization and subsidized research. Decades of policy decisions made it possible for me to buy this equipment without breaking the bank. I had nothing to do with that. I just benefited from it. Let's not forget the public research institutions that laid the groundwork for the connectivity technology that we rely on. The internet born out of DARPA, a US government agency, taxpayer funded. GPS I use to get to, my book events, developed with taxpayer money. The chips in the computer benefited from government-funded research into semiconductors. And the other thing that I think is interesting to consider is that the show didn't start with $1 million marketing budget. It grew on social media, platforms subsidized by public infrastructure like broadband internet, satellites, fiber optic networks, which exist thanks to public investment. The fact that I do this show in English is a huge part of its success. If I had stayed in Argentina, where I was born, speaking Spanish, I wouldn't have a show like this. I might have a show, but it wouldn't be a show like this. And I'm here thanks to the green card lottery that my family got in 1989, a program funded through American tax dollars. And there's even more. I work in a country with stable economic and legal systems. I don't have to worry about currency collapse or civil war, usually anyway. These are not David Pakman achievements. These are the products of living in a society where institutions, even though they are flawed, still function. My audience finds me because they have leisure time or enough leisure time to watch videos and listen to podcasts. That exists because of labor laws, weekends, societal advancements. And without those, I have no show because no one has energy or time to consume content. Electricity, we take it completely for granted. The studio doesn't run on magic. It doesn't run on ivermectin, right? It's powered by a publicly regulated grid. Lights, cameras, computers. Without those public utilities, I have nothing. When I was a kid, I didn't have to walk 10 miles to school or work in a factory to survive. I was able to focus on learning English when I moved to the US, being creative, etc. That's the result of living in a country with child labor laws and access to education, and the fact that I was born into a family where I didn't have to quit school and get a job at age 10. Even my ability to just into this microphone say whatever I want without fear of censorship or imprisonment is because of constitutional protections and decades of legal battles that were fought by others. My employees are able to work because they have access to public transportation, healthcare, education, not my doing, all the result of effort by other people. Now, I do want to talk about taxes a little bit. The infrastructure that I use, roads on which equipment I order is brought to me, airways for shipping, the postal system. It all exists because of taxpayer money, not anything I did. My audience isn't watching from the middle of the jungle. They're in homes with roofs running on water and internet, all which depend on public systems, zoning, regulation, social safety nets. And at the end of the day, the very concept of intellectual property, which allows me to monetize my work, is a legal framework created by governments and enforced by governments. And without that, anybody could just instantly rip off my content. Every time I make a video, copy, paste on 10 different channels. Well, guess I can't do much about it. The dollar I'm paid in is a stable and internationally recognized currency because of monetary policy and central banking. No self-made person ever was able to do it without those things. My ability to sell memberships depends on payment processors and banking systems and platforms like PayPal and Stripe and Patreon. These are built on layers of public and private collaboration, none of which I invented. So I could go on and on. I won't, because I think you get the point. The very idea of even being an entrepreneur is very culturally specific. It's a value system, in a sense. Certain societies promote and certain societies don't. I didn't create that, but I certainly benefited from it. So I don't want to ignore that there is this interconnected nature to all of this. And when people do the "I'm just self-made" trope, a lot of what they mean is I don't owe anyone anything. There doesn't need to be taxation. There doesn't need to be regulation. There doesn't need to be a social safety net because anybody who's poor is poor because they're choosing to be, or they've just decided I'm not going to work hard enough not to be poor. That's the real problem. And if we want to do away with that ideology, we first have to back up and say, self-made, what does that even really mean? Obviously, Trump wasn't self-made. Endless money from his family, inherited his dad's business. Obviously, Elon Musk wasn't self-made. Family from, I believe it's Emerald Mines, benefited from immigration to the United States, built businesses on top of research that was taxpayer funded by done by public institutions. Of course, they're not self-made, but even the entire concept is a problem. Well, I wrote a book after a long journey and a ton of work. I am really thrilled with how it turned out, and I hope you'll read it. The book is called The Echo Machine, and in a nutshell, it looks at how American politics got so broken, who has already figured out solutions, and how we can try to fix it and stop the terror of Trump for the next 4 years. With Trump winning this election, The Echo Machine couldn't be more relevant, not only a warning about how we got here, but also about what might be coming and how to prevent the worst outcomes. We've got to stay engaged. We need a plan, and that's what the book is about. There's a belief out there that unless you have corporate media behind you, you can't have a successful political book launch, that it's not possible. I think we can prove that wrong. Order The Echo Machine today at davidpakman.com/echo on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Audible, Kindle, anywhere that books, ebooks, and audiobooks are sold. You can also call any local bookstore and say, please order me The Echo Machine by David Pakman. Wherever you get the book, you'll get the free pre-order perks, including the signed book plate. Head to davidpakman.com/free book stuff after ordering.